In this section, we'll talk about the deposit and deposit appointment processes. First of all, please keep track of important dates and deadlines using the graduate school calendar, the link to which is on the screen here. As far as appointment types that are available to you, we actually have three currently. The first one is in person, where you physically come into the graduate school to deposit your thesis and drop off your required forms. The second one is by proxy, where you have another individual come in for you and drop off your paperwork. You will actually be able to submit your thesis online, so that's not so much of a concern. The third option is long distance, in which you do not physically come in to the graduate school but do everything long distance. For example, if you're in another state or another country, we can make arrangements to do everything long distance that way. However, please note that long-distance deposit appointments must be scheduled at least 2 weeks in advance of the appointment date. This gives both you and us enough time to make the necessary arrangements to finalize your deposit. Please don't wait until the last minute when making appointments. As you can see on the screen here, we have periods during a term where it gets extremely busy. A good example of this would be the exam degree only deadline, where we have a significant number of people coming in to meet that first deadline of the term. The second deadline for 698 and 699 registrants is also extremely busy. In fact, we probably do about 2/3 of our work for the entire term within the space of about 3 weeks. So you must keep that in mind, that it's not just you depositing, but it's several hundred other students who are also trying to get their thesis in, get it deposited, and of course graduate. As far as scheduling your appointment, you can actually self-schedule your appointment online using our website. The link to this is shown on the screen. Please try to schedule your appointment as far in advance as possible. But if you must cancel your appointment, please do so immediately using the appointment tool on our site. This is very important because, especially again at the end of the term, we have many candidates trying to get in, and if you decide to cancel, we can free up that slot and give it to another individual who does want to graduate during that term. Keeping this in mind, also remember that there may be visa and funding implications attached to your deposit. So it's very important that you talk to your department's business office before you schedule your appointment about what depositing your thesis may mean for your funding or visa. The reason for this is because in some cases, if you deposit your thesis, you may not get paid anymore, or if you deposit your thesis, this may start a timeline for visa issues. Please note that we cannot reverse or suspend a deposit. So if you do deposit your thesis, that's it. We consider you final deposited. So how to schedule your appointment. As you can see, we do have a link to this on our screen. It's very simple and easy. Should only take just a few moments to schedule your own appointment. When you do schedule, you'll have a number of different options available to you as described in appointment type. You can even cancel your appointment if you wish. When you do fill in your information, please use your correct name. Please do not use any nicknames. So fill in all the appropriate blocks. Read all the information at the bottom. This is what your calendar will look like. You will see what slots are available or what slots are not available. After you've selected your preferred appointment time, click Save and then Confirm Appointment, as shown on the screen. You should receive a confirmation email. This may take a few minutes, so don't worry if you don't immediately receive a response from us. Usually it takes about 5 minutes to receive the confirmation email to the email that you designated when you requested your appointment. Definitely make sure all your appointment information is correct in the email, and definitely save that email for your records since it has important information connected with your deposit appointment. Long distance appointments. If you do opt for a long distance deposit, we must have all of your forms submitted to us before your scheduled appointment time. Long distance depositors must submit their electronic thesis document before their scheduled appointment time, just like any other depositor. So in other words, try to get it in as soon as possible, but certainly no later than 24 hours prior to your scheduled long distance deposit time. If we have received all your documents and your electronic thesis document is approved, at your appointment time we'll email you a thesis deposit receipt, Graduate School Form 16, and that will be your entire appointment. There is no need for a call or for us to personally talk with you unless we have any particular questions. Again, note that failure to meet deadlines will result in removal from the graduate list. So it's very important that even if you are depositing long distance, we do have a timeline and that you will need to submit everything in a timely fashion to ensure that you meet the deadline. As far as deposits by proxy, if you can't come into an appointment and miss the long distance deadline, you can definitely schedule a proxy appointment. In other words, you can designate a colleague, a friend, or even a family member to attend an in-person deposit appointment on your behalf. The key here is that they will have to schedule, or you will have to schedule, an online appointment just like anyone else. So in other words, it's just like a regular appointment, except you're not personally coming in, it's just another individual coming in for you. Again, you'll be submitting online electronically, so you can do that from literally anywhere. It's just the paperwork that we need to get, and that's why it's important that your proxy have all necessary materials. So what should you expect at your, for example, in-person appointment? Well, the whole key is to make sure that your electronic thesis is already approved before you come in. That's our goal, is to ensure that when you submit your thesis, by the time you walk into our office, you will already know that you've been approved. Everything else will be just a matter of turning in paperwork. At the time you come in, we'll review your forms that you bring with you, specifically Grad School Form 9, Grad School Form 32, and of course your exit questionnaire or even survey of earned doctorate, especially if you're a PhD. If everything looks good, we'll prepare a Grad School Form 16 thesis receipt and address any final questions you may have. We will also remind you about paying your thesis deposit fee at that time. Most appointments actually last no more than 5 minutes, so if you're prepared, what we found is that you'll probably spend more time waiting in our front office than actually being seen by either myself or Ann Lacey, our thesis assistant. Also, very important, please bring your thesis files with you on a flash drive or a laptop in case you do need to make last-minute corrections. As we mentioned earlier, we do allow you to make corrections right up to the time that you deposit your thesis, but once you have actually final deposited and we've given you your form, if you do want to make any subsequent changes, you'll have to fill out a request subject to approval by a dean of the graduate school, and you may be subject to a $200 fee. So for this reason, bring your files with you. That way, if we do find anything at the last minute, or if you find anything at the last minute, you can still make those changes and we'll be as accommodating as possible. As part of this process, make sure that you review our online checklist, flowcharts, and timeline. Definitely review the deposit checklist. It outlines the steps that you'll need to complete before your appointment. If you review it carefully and if you're attentive to what you're doing, you should have absolutely no problem getting through the deposit process. Further, for more detail, definitely look at our flowcharts for both in-person and long-distance deposit appointments. When you first look at these, they may look rather complex, but actually only about half of the steps apply to most candidates, either PhD or master's. If you're actually not sure where to start or you're not sure where you're at in the timeline, then definitely try our thesis timeline chart, which provides an overview of the entire thesis and thesis deposit process. You'll find all three of these particular items on our thesis dissertation information page, and the link to that is shown on the screen. These are what the checklist, timeline, and flowcharts look like. This is an example of the checklist, and as you can see on one side there's instructions for in-person and proxy appointments, and on the other side there's one for long-distance appointments. So again, please review these carefully, and you should have absolutely no trouble during the deposit process afterwards. This is an example of the current timeline. This gives you a general overview of what the expectations are and the things that you need to think about as you go through the process and get closer to graduation. This is an example of the flow chart. As you can see, it does look rather complicated, but if you go through it systematically, you'll find that only about half of it actually applies to you. So again, if you review these items carefully, you should have absolutely no trouble getting through the process.